After a wonderful flight on board Play Airlines into Iceland, I traveled to the company's headquarters in Reykjavík, and I had the pleasure and opportunity of meeting and interviewing the airline's CEO.
I'm Einar Ólafsson, the CEO of Play.
All right. So you haven't been the CEO the whole time, but how have the first 3 years of operations gone for the carrier?
I would say operations have generally been pretty good in that we have a very good on-time performance. We cancel very few flights. Our customers are very happy with what we have on offer. Economic-wise, we are like a 1 year behind schedule, I would say. So we haven't turned a profit yet, but aim to do so very, very soon. We're hoping to be there. Sort of when we started, we were hoping to sort of haven't gotten there roughly by now.
You've only been the CEO for a couple of months, 5-6 months at this point. Is there anything that you could have done, you think, differently between then and now?
That I think my predecessor should have done differently. I think you can always look back and when you have all the benefits of hindsight, that you can always do something differently, and better. Like now we have data points that we didn't have then. So it's an unfair comparison, but I think we probably, if anything, we grew a little bit too quickly in the beginning, with COVID still going on and everything. So it would probably a little bit quick out of the blocks.
And you kind of mentioned COVID. I know you said you grew a little bit too quickly during COVID, but how did the carrier, play out considering every single destination is international?
Yeah, so when we started, we actually thought that this was a benefit starting the company in COVID, because we figured COVID was sort of running its course, which was, I guess, the mistake. It almost had a year still on it. But our thought was, okay, if we're getting in while, just when it's passing, then it's a great time because we can get the aircraft at a great price, which was correct. So all the aircraft we have on a 12-year lease, more or less, are at a much lower price than you could get them today. And we figured all the older airlines would be crippled, so it would be a good time to start a new one. That one didn't materialize quite as we expected because they were pretty quick on their feet, most of them.
Have you found that more people are connecting through Iceland with Play, or are you finding that a lot of people are using this as their final destination?
Yeah, so as it is, we have a pretty even, so three pretty even groups of customers. The ones flying from Iceland, basically Icelanders, the ones flying to Iceland, and the ones flying, basically between Europe and America. And so if we take the Icelanders out and the flights that are sort of targeted towards them, the South European flights, and just look at the other part of the system that's really sort of flying between America and Northern Europe, then we get a tad more of the via passengers than the to Iceland. We would like the split to be a little bit more in favor of just passengers to Iceland, but we have just introduced like a stopover product, so you can actually, even if you're flying through, you can stop over for a couple of days here, and we're seeing this product pick up. So we're guessing this, that this will tilt.
Okay. Recently, you've announced some newer destinations like Aalborg, Faro, and I think there was one or two in the past few days, even since I wrote these questions, on the European side.
Right.
On the North American side, there's only 4 or 5 destinations, and it's kind of just been stagnant. Is there any plans to kind of build up in North America or introduce other mid-sized cities?
So the mid-sized cities you mentioned, we are always looking at these things. I'm not sure Syracuse or Grand Rapids would be the first on the agenda, but there are certainly airports that we're not flying into that we are looking at. We are looking at basically at So what fits into our system are basically airports that doesn't take more than 5.5 hours, 6 hours to fly from Iceland. So it's sort of a line between, let's say, Chicago and DC. You have to be northeast of that. And it's not a lot of big and good airports in this area. And some of them are close to us because of when we fly in, they're just too busy. But this is a constant re-evaluation, and you'll just have to wait and see if we announce anything.
Yeah. All right. With the new runways opening up in Greenland, in the coming years, Nuuk has, November, and then Ilulissat has, end of this year, beginning of next year. Is Play looking into destinations like that and possibly giving Greenland their first, affordable budget carrier?
We are looking into Greenland, yes. We haven't announced anything. It's not going to happen this year, clearly, but yeah, we're definitely looking into Greenland. I would be surprised if we don't put our foot down there in the coming couple of years.
All right. Where do you feel like you fit in among the budget carriers, and how do you separate yourselves from the likes of Ryanair doesn't fly to Iceland, but EasyJet kind of does. So how do you differentiate yourself from them?
Well, I mean, we cater quite a bit to the local market, as many airlines do. It's funny that if you pick a city pair and you get a local in one city and a local airline in the other city, and they're both flying, they will be carrying a lot of customers from their respective countries. So we are getting a lot of Icelanders to fly with us. I bet on the EasyJet flights, there's an overwhelming majority of them are Brits. And not a lot of Icelanders, so we are catering to the Icelanders. But in terms of the product we're offering, I would say in the low-cost carrier space, whether it's ultra low cost or just low costs, and I don't think there's a clear distinction necessarily. So there are the ones that are doing everything they can to have as low a CASK or as low cost as possible, like Ryanair and Wizz, I think we can say, who are the front runners, particularly in Europe there. I don't think you have anyone quite as cheap in the US, but we are looking at there's a bunch of them in Europe that are low-cost carriers, but are still trying to be nice to their customers and clients. So we have Norwegian from Norway basically, and Scandinavia. It's a pretty nice low-cost airline. The likes of Vueling in Spain. To an extent, I would say Transavia are pretty good. So we're more there. We do have a few rows of seats at the front with extra leg space that we sell for a higher price. And so we're not trying to be the lowest of the lowest cost airlines, but no frills, but simple but nice.
Okay, so you're trying to get away from that stigma of low cost kind of meaning dirty and cheap and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Our planes are new and clean and nice, and our staff is accommodative, and our passengers are generally pleasantly surprised with the experience of flying with us.
All right. You have said that you are trying to make the flying experience fun and also affordable at the same time. How have you been trying to accomplish this, not only on board the aircraft? I know you said they're kind of newer and they're a little bit nicer, but also in the airports.
Yes, well, I mean, the customer experience we are trying to create, not always successfully, but what we're trying to create is being, we're trying to be, it's supposed to be simple and easy, and hence it's not a drawn out experience being at the airport, for example, or getting on and off the plane and so forth. So we're trying to be sort of as digitized as we can, as streamlined as we can, so as simple as we can. So this will make the experience not stressful. Airports are stressful. Aircraft are stressful. People don't really like being there. They want to get in and out. They want to get to the destination as fast as they can. So having everything smooth is a part of the sort of customer experience, and we're trying to achieve that.
Okay. I know you mentioned you have those extra legroom seats at the front of the planes. In the United States, low cost or budget carrier, we have Spirit. They're introducing what they call the big front seat, and they're starting to look even closer to first class seats. Is Play kind of looking at this, or are you just gonna kind of stick with the extra legroom seats that you have at the moment?
We have toyed with the idea of offering sort of a different class, I guess we can say, like a premium economy, or it's not going to be first class. But yeah, I mean, we've toyed with the idea. I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay. How do you integrate the Icelandic values and culture into your brand, whether that's, on board, signage, or, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, the name certainly isn't particularly Icelandic, but a lot of our staff on board is. So I guess that gives it a bit of a flavor. We do have sometimes sort of signs or ads that are Icelandic in nature and suggest our thing. I mean, on Instagram we're constantly pushing Iceland as a destination.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, we're certainly not shy about our origins.
Yeah. I'm sure you knew this question was coming. You were not the CEO of WOW because you just started 6 months ago, and you weren't really involved with that company at all. But what did you kind of learn or overhear that you're trying to avoid from the experiences of predecessor WOW that you're trying to steer away from with Play?
Right. I mean, I think it's best just to cite the former owner and CEO of WOW, who himself basically said that they sort of overextended themselves in terms of maybe they maybe grew a little bit too fast, and they complicated things for themselves by introducing too many kinds of aircraft, too many kinds of engines. They had different classes, I guess we can say, and sort of complicated life for them a little bit too much.
All right. I know you said you're not going to go into different classes of aircraft, so that kind of gets rid of the A330 or any wide body perspective. Are you looking at the A321 XLR, still single aisle, same type rating, everything like that?
Yeah, I mean, that aircraft certainly makes sense on paper. In that, it's the same aircraft more or less as we are operating. The same crew and captains and everything can operate that aircraft. I would say the problem currently is that they are pretty expensive. So we're not going to be the first ones to introduce those in our fleet. We'll see how it plays out and how they are in operations. We'll see how other airlines are. How happy they are with them, and we want to see if the basically the lease prices and the prices on them come down a bit. They feel a bit expensive.
Right. For the customers flying out of the United States, do you plan on enrolling the carrier in the TSA PreCheck program?
Which is that you can check in.
I did get an answer about this from someone else at their headquarters after the interview, and the answer to this was that it is still being evaluated internally, and they have not yet made a decision whether or not they're going to join the TSA PreCheck program.
Does Play plan on getting an app at any point in the near or distant future?
I would say it's not too near. There's always something ahead of it within our IT department. Always some items we want to sell on our website that we need to introduce. It's certainly somewhere on the horizon, but it's not within the next 12 months, I would say.
Okay. I know you mentioned that you haven't turned a profit yet, but on your website recently, you said that in this summer of 2023, just during those summer months, you made a $12 million US dollar profit.
Yeah.
The summer before that was $3 million loss. How does this past summer of 2024 and going forward kind of look?
Right. So I have to tread carefully here because it's a listed company. I mean, we have said that 24 is going to be better than 23 in terms of our financial income, or just our finances, and so I'm not sure I can elaborate more on that. But this year. But I mean, if you look at Q1 and Q2 and compare them with Q1 and Q2 and 23, you can see that we are clearly estimating that the second half of this year is going to be way better than the second half of last year.
Okay. What has been your biggest challenge operating here in Iceland besides the competition from Icelandair?
Well, I mean, it's a limited airport with limited competition in terms of all suppliers, be it fuel or handling or really anything. So and in terms of airports in general, it's not like I can use the other international airport around Reykjavík. So I would say limited competition is not great, but it's a good place to operate from though, because people like to come here. It's a hot place.
Yeah. And it's definitely an efficient airport.
Yeah.
It's very efficient.
Yeah, it's nice. It's easy to go through.
Right. What do the aircraft deliveries for your current aircraft look like in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so we have basically stated that we're going to grow more sort of carefully from here on. We had to get to 10 aircraft rather quickly just to, for the AOC to be, to make sense. So we're going to grow more carefully from here on, and probably the next couple of summers is probably going to be through ACMIs over the peak summer period. And one of the main reasons is that aircraft are in big demand now for many reasons. Boeing obviously with their problems, the Pratt & Whitney engine problems with the Airbuses. So basically the aircraft we are using, it's really hot right now, so they're pretty expensive. Mm-hmm. We are expecting the price of these aircraft to come down in a year or two. So at which time we expect to sort of sign new agreements.
Okay. Two final questions. The first one is, what does the future in the next 5 or 10 years look like? I know you mentioned aircraft. What is the route map going to look like in 5 years or 10 years as long as we keep going on this path?
Yes, I mean, I would say a probably more efficient size for us would be like a 20, 25, 30 aircraft company. That would be better. That would make our hub more, or just stronger. We would have more pipes on each end to meet in the hub, and we would probably want to venture further with our point-to-point flights as well. So I imagine us being sort of around that, somewhere between 20 and 30 aircraft.
Okay. And then the last question: if you had unlimited funds and zero, government restrictions, airport restrictions, essentially, if you had unlimited funds and absolutely zero restrictions, what would you do to the company with that?
I don't know. I don't even know if it's good to have endless funds. You probably waste it. I don't know if I would do things so dramatically differently from what we're doing. I don't think it makes sense to grow at least out of Iceland that quickly. And I don't think we've proven that we can do things so much better than everybody else in the world that we should basically be setting up subsidiaries around the world. So I think we'd just do things pretty much as we are doing them.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for talking to me and answering the questions that I and our readers came up with.
Right. Thank you.